Welcome to Eternal Elements Learning Podcast, brought to you by Atyasa Online. These podcasts are a part of the audio certificate programs on Atyasa Online. You're free to take these podcasts on your desired portal also, should you only wish to learn on the go. Thank you so much for engaging on these podcasts, and you can connect with the author on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook.
Hi, this is Niket Karasgi talking to you from Atyasa Online on Eternal Elements. We're in Season 5 talking about business excellence. We also talk about organizational excellence. We spoke about organizations, we spoke about a whole lot of things about globalization. Now let's talk about what it is to be truly in the space of excellence. So what is excellence? It's about being the best. It's about being hard to find. It's about being totally different from others. So what is business excellence? If you were to define business excellence, it is primarily described as it's an outstanding practice in managing organizations and achieving results. So it's an outstanding practice of managing organizations and achieving results. I repeat. And it's all based on fundamental concepts and values. So you're achieving results, you're achieving phenomenal results, which keeps you different from your competitors. And you do that with your fundamental concepts and values. Remember I talked about sense of purpose? Remember I talked about values? That's the whole essence. It's so unique. The sense of purpose is unique. The values are unique. The culture is unique. The products may be unique, may not be unique. So products can be similar to others. But what is a definer of excellence? It's primarily your processes, your practices, your core fundamental values, your sense of purpose. These practices have evolved into models for world-class companies as to how they should operate. And that's the whole idea of business excellence. There are companies which are eternal and everlasting. So when you are a company which is practicing business excellence, obviously you're eternal and you're everlasting. Various management consultants have done various researches on what makes companies everlasting. And what they found out was, it's not only about the idea that you bring into practice, but it's also about the vision. It's about being a visionary company. Remember I talked about vision in my earlier seasons, and I said that it's primarily a dream and an action put together which makes a vision. Vision is where you would like to be, and that's where the entire management of the company, the board that steers the company, is consistently talking about vision. They don't divulge, or they don't really divert from their visions. They continuously go in line with their visions. So what is it about these organizations that make them fundamentally different and make them move into the space of excellence? So it's about their core ideology. The core ideology is about the sense of purpose and the core values that they practice. And by the way, the sense of purpose and core values just don't change. They also are defined by their own unique culture. Now, what's a culture? A culture is primarily your beliefs, your emotionally held opinions, your attitudes, which are the practiced beliefs, and it's the thinking pattern, which is what is called the attitude. And then your attitude actually converts itself in action in the real world in form of behaviors. So what is it that's core to this organization? Their sense of purpose, their values, their beliefs, their attitude, and their behaviors. It's a cultish behavior that these organizations demonstrate. So if you go to most of these brands which are really in the space of excellence, you'll find they're like a cult. You can just understand that this person belongs to this organization. That's how the whole thing is all about. So what do these organizations actually do in their excellence model? They have their core. The core is their cultish behavior. The core is their sense of purpose, their values. That's something that never changes. They are constantly driven by their vision. And while they are constantly moving towards their vision, they are also practicing their stimulating progress constantly. So how are they stimulating their progress? How are they practicing the stimulation of progress? What they're doing is, a lot of times in today's world, when I see in the 21st century, most of the organizations are design thinking organizations. And what do you do in design thinking? You set up a big goal, but you chunk it down into small goals, which are clear. They're absolutely compelling in their own way. And they buy the commitment of people from the organization. It's quite a charge-up process for people. They're excited to get onto their goals, and that's what is the core idea of the management. That's what they do, and they are achievable, but yet unachievable. There is a stretch that people have to get into, and therefore they are always operating outside the comfort zone. So these are big goals, chunked down into small goals, which brings clarity, and that's what creates an experiment as to how are they going to achieve the goals. And they fail in their experiments, but they're extremely persistent in their own way. And while they're experimenting, they're evolving towards success, and that's what business excellence is all about. Protect the core, stimulate your progress by setting up big goals, constantly experimenting, and while you experiment, you are actually moving towards the whole space of success. So how do you do that? While you do experiment, and fundamental about an experiment is an experiment could succeed, it could fail, but the experiments have to be aligned in line with the customer. And while the experiments are aligned with the customer, who is facing the customer? It's your team that's facing the customer. And the team is facing the customer, then obviously they know what to do with the customer, so you empower them. You build entrepreneurs within your own organizations. These are people with ideas who bring in a lot of contribution to the society in terms of improving their quality of life, and that's what the product is all about. They are actually completely vision and value driven for sure, something that we talked about, and they know what their basic business is. They stick to their domain. They don't move out of their domain, and they're very, very simple structures, because complicated structures create a whole lot of inefficiencies within the organization. So they're extremely lean in their approach. And while they're doing that, the core management actually is responsible for ensuring that the culture, the core values of the sense of purpose is protected, but people down the line can actually take decisions which are in line with their core culture. So if you really look at these companies, what are they doing? They're sticking to their basics. They're simple. They're very high on persistence for sure, and their products and their packaging and their processes and everything that they do is fantastic in terms of quality. And while they do that, they are actually aligned to their customers, and they're also constantly listening to their employees. And that's what makes the organization get on to the pursuit of business excellence. So they care for their customers, constantly innovating for sure, and that's where design thinking comes in, because design thinking is phenomenal in the 21st century. I will talk about design thinking in my subsequent seasons for sure, and the leadership is all about continuously managing uncertainties and change. And while the leaders have the real-time fundamental facts of what's happening at the ground level, what they're doing is they're consistently managing change, and they're consistently managing the uncertainties. And that's what takes you into the space of business excellence. So in a nutshell, what is business excellence all about? Being totally different, being the best. And how do you do that? You have your core, which is your sense of purpose and your values. And then you have your own culture, which you protect completely. And then you set up goals, and then you persevere on those goals by experimenting constantly. And while you do all that, you keep close to your customers, you keep close to your employees, and you're empowering people, but you're protecting the core, and you're constantly innovating. And while you're constantly innovating, you are also demonstrating leadership by which you're able to influence change, you're able to manage the uncertainties, and that's what business excellence is all about. We will deep dive into the process of business excellence as we move through in the subsequent episodes. We're going to talk about different business excellence models, and I'm sure the fundamental that I just discussed is something that will keep coming up every time I discuss those models. So thank you very much. This is Niket Karasgi signing off from Eternal Elements. I was talking to you about what business excellence is all about, and how companies which practice business excellence, what do they do, how do they behave. So thank you very much. I'll see you in the next episode.